Hey, BraveCo man, I want to tell you about a project that we just finished. It's our Foundations of Masculinity 12 video series that will really help you grow stronger, more confident as a man. Whole bunch of guys are wondering, man, how do I deal with my pain? How do I learn healthy boundaries? How do I lead myself, my family well? How do I become a leader? This course is for you. If you're interested in growing, take 12 weeks out of your life, dig in, do it with a friend, and really up your game. Guys, you can purchase this at braveco.org. Have an incredible day. We live in a time where masculinity is shamed and men don't know what it means to be a man. As a pastor and counselor, I've spent the better part of my life equipping and training others. My goal with this show is to translate my hard-earned experience into tools and tactics to help you become stronger as a man. This is the BraveCo podcast. I'm your host, Jason Vallotton. Hey, babe.
Hi.
Man, I'm so glad to have you here.
I get to be on the BraveCo podcast.
Yeah. Well, this week's episode of the BraveCo podcast is going to be special because we're going to talk about marriage.
Love it.
With a slight emphasis on the man's role.
Okay. Excellent. I like talking about your role.
I sometimes like talking about my role.
Yeah.
But no, I think we've been focusing on dating a little bit. I had Allie come in.
Fun.
Yeah.
She's the best.
She was so great. And we have a lot of married people.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that are thinking about getting married someday, even if they're not married now.
Mm-hmm.
And so we thought it would be a great thing to talk about, you and me.
Fun.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
We've been married for 11 years.
Yeah, going on 12.
And we have quite an interesting dynamic.
We do.
Do you want to explain it?
Yeah,
you
sure.
You do best at explaining things.
Okay. Well, yeah, for anybody that doesn't know, we were married in 2011. You had 3 kids from your first marriage. So at the time they were 12, 9, and 6. Now they are 20, almost 23, almost 21, and almost 18.
Gosh, we've done a lot of...
Boom. A lot of years.
A lot of years.
A lot of seasons. So the big kids, the oldest is off and married. You met Allie last week.
Yeah.
Everybody met Allie in the dating episode. And then we have a 2-year-old little girl and a 4-month-old little boy.
So we have 5.
We have 5 kids. 6 if you count Al.
And I mean, when I married you, when you came into their life,
Yeah.
it was at such a pivotal and crazy time.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I love about our marriage is that we started out mid hike, mid hill.
Yeah.
Like if we're on a backpacking adventure, you didn't get any flat ground.
No.
Like you didn't start at the
A
bottom.
helicopter dropped me off. We did not start at base camp.
And then you just kind of picked up
Yeah.
where we were and started trekking. So, it's a little bit unusual because I don't know, there's a lot of marriages today that are starting out like that.
Yeah, it's true. I think maybe what is less common is I think often, well, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, but I feel like what was unique for us then was we didn't know any other couples.
It's true.
We didn't have friends who the guy had been married and had kids and the girl had never been married before, didn't have any kids of her own. So that was, at that point, that was unique. But now, I mean, blended families are so common, obviously.
Yeah. So jumping in, we do a lot of conversations with people about marriage, what makes marriage work, how do you build a strong, healthy marriage.
Yeah.
And we're going to do some of that here. And whether you have 3 kids and a husband who's been married before, or whether you're just starting out, it's almost all the same in the sense that you have to both start out loving yourself. And it's like that analogy of the box that we talk about a lot, right? Like marriage is an empty box. The only thing that you can pull out of that marriage box is what you've put into it, which seems so juvenile, like not juvenile. Seems so juvenile. Yeah. Juvenile. Well, that would be a totally different thing, wouldn't it? But it seems so juvenile, right? When you say that, because people are like, duh. But that's not actually what most people think. Most people, when they're dating, they think marriage is going to solve whatever problem they're in.
Yeah.
And
or it's going to be easier once we're married.
Yeah. And before they're dating, they think marriage is a solution to their source of pain or dissatisfaction with life. And so, man, I just got to find someone that I want to be with. But marriage really isn't that.
No.
And what marriage does, and we'll talk about the good sides too, but we're talking about the reality, is marriage is this weight that you put on of responsibility and expectations. And if you have a flaw in your body, in your system, in your carrying capacity, it's going to expose that flaw.
Definitely.
If you don't have flaws, the weight of responsibility gives you purpose. It gives you incredible amount of meaning and connection. But what we've found is marriage is a continual work of ownership.
Totally. And let's be straight. Everybody has flaws. I think the kind of flaws you're talking about, though, are like cracks in the foundation. If you have brokenness, then marriage exposes it. The pressure of marriage exposes brokenness, exposes cracks in the foundation. But on the other hand, marriage is this incredible opportunity to sharpen each other and to, you know, what is exposed has the opportunity to get worked on and smoothed out. So it is this incredible opportunity to become a much better version of yourself. Yeah.
Well, and why I like starting out here, right, is because if people are already married listening to this, if you don't like your marriage, the first place to check is yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Like if I'm not happy, if I come home and I'm not happy with my marriage, I need to look at me and start to go, okay, do I like me? And do I like how I'm leading my life? And do I like how I'm communicating? And do I like how I'm, and that is the baseline, right? Because if I like me and I'm doing me well and I'm being responsible and I'm showing up and I have good communication skills and I know how to share my needs, and okay, well that's
then it's all my fault.
Then it's all your fault. It's at least half the battle.
Yeah.
And you can get somewhere from there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We want to give some tools to people. I'd love for you, when we're talking about, okay, what makes a healthy marriage? What's the first thing you think of?
Ownership.
Yeah.
I mean, it also happens to be the thing that we talking about before this podcast started. But I do think that it is one of the most important elements. And I think that in the context of marriage and in the pressure of an intimate relationship, it is one of the harder things to do. I think that, I was 25 when we got married. You were 30. And so it's not like we were kids. I mean, people get married at 18, right? We weren't there.
I mean, I got married at 18 too.
And it didn't work out.
Yeah.
So
there's always that. It was challenging.
It didn't work. But no, I think we weren't babies when we got married. And yet, even for you, 30 years old, 3 kids deep, there was a lot of growth for us to do in those first years. And there's a lot of challenge in growing up with another person. There's a lot of room for struggle. And I think taking ownership is really hard because, we joked about it a second ago, but taking ownership means that you have to take a look at yourself and be honest with yourself about what you're bringing to the table, good, bad, or ugly. Yeah. And that's hard to do. It's hard to do when somebody is holding up a mirror in front of your face every day to show you this is how you're affecting me. This is how this area of your life affects me. So I think it takes a lot of maturity, and I think it takes a lot of guts to show up and take ownership. I know that I would say, tell me if I'm wrong, in our marriage dynamic, I will self-admittedly say you're better at taking ownership quickly probably than me.
Ooh. Well, here's the thing. If it comes to like I did something wrong.
Yeah.
Or
let's say this. I'm more stubborn than you.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
You're more responsible than me, though.
Well, I guess it depends on how we define responsibility.
Yeah, that's what
But
I'm
yes.
going into. Okay, when it's the role, like this is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I come home and I make sure that I'm checking off the boxes, that all the things are tidied, and that's you.
Yeah.
100%. So when we first got married,
Yeah.
and here's how I know.
Okay.
When we first got married, I feel like I walk into the house every day clueless with what needs to happen.
I feel like you do too.
I felt like that's what it was when we first got married. I'd walk into the house and I'd be clueless. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, innocently clueless.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even know that.
You stepped over a big pile of mess,
No.
or that pan on the stove has been there for days that you used it and never cleaned it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that it's not going to wash itself.
Totally.
And that the kids have a routine
Yeah.
that was created
Yeah.
that I need to be a
Hey,
part of.
guess what? Yeah.
And I think that a lot of guys struggle with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'm
Probably
speaking
a lot.
generally for men, but I think just in general, I feel like, at least how I grew up in a home where what happens inside the house, like my sisters did
Don't
the chores
say it.
inside the house.
Don't
they did.
say it.
It's a very
So
traditional
old
house.
school.
Yeah, so old school.
Yeah.
It's true. So
yeah.
like
The women take care of the inside. The men take care of the outside.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I never did a load of laundry growing up. When I got married at 18, I didn't know how to do laundry.
Yeah.
And I didn't cook.
Yeah. You do now.
Oh, I'm friggin' master.
Master chef.
And so growing up, getting married
Yeah.
was I had a massive learning curve
Yeah.
when we first got married.
Yeah.
And I had been married for 10 years. But I think the difference is you're wired so different
Yeah.
than what I'd ever been used to from my mom or my ex-wife. Like this idea that the house has needs, right?
Yeah.
So probably a year into marriage, no, not even a year, probably 4 months into
It
marriage.
was at least a year.
Was it a year?
Oh yeah.
Gosh,
Oh yeah.
it's hard to remember. We had just ran ashore on this conversation so many times of you kind of crying, frustrated that I wasn't
Paying more attention. Yeah.
and then it got to the point where you'd be like, you really don't see that pile of laundry, did
Yeah.
you? And you don't really see those dishes, do you? And me just being like so frustrated at myself and so frustrated at just the whole scenario. And what I had to start doing was first I had to take responsibility, take ownership. Like, okay, this is my fault. This is not her fault. This is not her responsibility to say, hey, could you help me over here? Hey, can you, like these clothes that are yours, hey, can you pick those up? And this thing that is ours, can you help in this? And so I realized at some point, like, okay, if I don't want her to feel like my mom, then as pissed off as I am about her telling me about it, I have to take responsibility of it.
Yeah.
And so I set an alarm on my phone every day, 4:45 before I got off work. And it said, hey, the house has needs.
Yeah. Reminder.
Yeah. And then when I came home, it was like a quick hug. And then like, how can I help clean up?
Yeah.
And again, here's why I say I think a lot of guys struggle with it. Not necessarily picking up the house or whatever, but I think just taking ownership and going, because here's what I hear guys tell me all the time.
Okay.
She just feels like my mom.
Yeah.
She feels like my mom. Although the thing that they're saying she feels like my mom about, they know that they're supposed to do.
Right.
So it could be, hey, the kids need attention and you're over here
On your phone.
on your phone, not paying attention.
Yeah.
Or, hey, you just got home from a long day of work, but like, I want to connect with you. Or it feels like the momentum in the marriage, a lot is left to the wife.
Yeah. I think, yeah. I think that is probably a common issue. If we're talking about ownership, though, like I said, you're quicker to take ownership than me. I'm thinking more along the lines of like, if I hurt you and you hurt me, like you're totally.
No, you're savage in that scenario. I have to prove definitively that it actually was your fault.
I've gotten better.
Yeah, there's been some slight improvements.
I have improved.
You have.
But I am more stubborn than you, that's for sure. But you're right. I guess this is something that I'd want to say on the note of like ownership and being and practically taking ownership in the home and in the family. I would say one of the things that you taught me when we got married is that there is not a standard list of rights and wrongs when it comes to marriage.
Yeah.
That my list in my head of what is responsible or what we should do to be a healthy family that does the right thing is very subjective to me. It's based on how I grew up. It's based on my normal.
Our listeners don't know how much work that took to get you to that place where the shoulds, there wasn't a certain standard of normal.
I mean, there are some things that are standard, but then there's this also the subjective list. I just want the guys
to know, like,
he worked on me a long time.
That was a big breakthrough.
He worked on me.
Yeah.
But my point there is, I think that regardless of the lists of responsibilities or shoulds, in a marriage, you're only going to enjoy your marriage if both people feel like they have permission to turn up with their needs and to be who they are. So for me, actually, the need under all of that was to feel partnered with and to feel like we were a team in eliminating chaos in our life. Like chaos, for my personality, chaos, even in my space, like environmental chaos, is a total trigger for me. It makes me feel like, I mean, I'm the kid who I couldn't even study for my exams in college until I cleaned my room. I had to like tidy my desk and put all the paper clips away before I could study for my test.
And I never cleaned my room or studied for a test.
Exactly. So there's the difference between us.
It's so true.
And
true story.
Yeah. But I think that like my needs matter in that situation. Like our life as a family, our life as a married couple isn't going to be awesome if I feel like what I need in order to enjoy our home doesn't matter to you. So it's not because it's like what an adult male should do. He should come inside and check the trash can before he sits down on the couch, or he should look around the room and see if there's any toys to pick up. Like, I mean, debatable, but let's just say for the sake of this conversation, you're only doing those things because it actually helps me.
Yeah, it matters to you.
It matters to me. So I think the point there is in marriage, when it comes to taking ownership, your life is not your own when you're married. You don't have the luxury of just coming in and doing what you want or what feels good to you or what's normal to you. If you're going to have a happy marriage, you have to come in caring about the other person and actually intentionally shifting to meet that person's needs as well as making your own needs known. And so I think for anybody listening, I would want to say, you know, I think this is a common complaint, a common issue in marriage, mostly because it's hard to prefer somebody else over yourself. Yeah. It's hard to, care about things that you don't naturally care about. It takes for us, like I said, we've been going on 12 years of marriage, and I think we're doing a better and better job every year at caring about what matters to the other person. So there's that. There's that side of taking ownership.
It's true. Yeah, it's definitely multifaceted.
Yeah.
And it's not very instinctual to just come in and be like, oh, I naturally want to take care of what's important to her is important to me. That is a learned thing. Mm-hmm. I think the real challenge, right, is even if I want to make what's important to you important to me, what's the system that I've set up to do that?
Definitely.
To really pull that off. Yeah. And again, I think that's the big failure. Yeah. That's the thing that typically never gets set up. Mm-hmm. And in a lot of ways, like we're still perfecting a lot of those in different areas of our life.
Oh yeah.
But it's so important because if I don't find a way to make what's important to you important to me, I'm literally telling you, I'm sending you the opposite message. Yeah. Day in and day out. And until I convince you that you are important to me, you'll feel like we're in a war together, which is tough.
Yeah. Or like I have to
Compete.
prove that, what I need matters.
Yeah. And that's a tough way to live in marriage.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that, like a different angle of ownership that I think is equally as important in marriage is just that as an individual, so we have our married life and we have our reality as a couple, where our life is not our own, but we're also two individuals coming into the relationship. And, of course, like we're each on our own learning journeys. We're each growing and maturing in different areas. We're each pursuing different things. And I think, one of the things that I have appreciated in our marriage is that there's never been a day where I have wondered if you will address something that comes up. If something comes up inside of you that's a hindrance to your best self, I don't have to worry if you're going to address it. You are quick to take ownership. You are quick to say, hey, I'll figure that out. And I think vice versa. I mean, there's, we're not perfect. There's definitely things that come up. I feel like each year we kind of peel back another layer of the onion and go, okay, how do I actually become even better in this area? How do I actually improve? How do I mature? And I think we could both probably say that we're very willing to take ownership over the dysfunction that we discover, if there is any. And I think that that's huge. I know I've had conversations with so many women who one of their greatest struggles in their marriage is that their husband isn't actually willing to take a look inside and be honest about issues. Yeah. And she's not sure if he's actually going to go and get the help he needs or if he's going to be humble enough to actually ask for, input. That's tough. And that's something I can honestly say, like in our marriage, I just haven't had to worry about that one day. Yeah. And I think that like if I was talking to a group of unmarried men, I would say, hey, do yourself a favor and get really, really good at asking for help when you discover unhealthy areas of your own heart or your life, because your wife will thank you for it. I mean, it's a matter of building trust. It's a matter of actually, do I trust my husband to lead us well? How can I trust my husband to lead us well if I can't trust him to lead himself well? Yeah. I don't know if he's going to actually do anything about that anger problem. I don't know if he's going to actually do anything about that pornography addiction. I don't know if he's going to do anything about the fact that when he goes to work every day, he hates his life and he comes home miserably sad after work. But is he going to do anything about it? I don't know. And that, as a woman, that's a very vulnerable place to be. It's very vulnerable to be a woman in a marriage where you don't know if your husband is going to do something about those areas. Yeah. It doesn't build trust. No. It makes my personality feel like I have to control everything. For other women, I think it makes them feel like they're just so insecure. It just breeds so much insecurity, or in my case, it would breed such a sense of like, I want to control the situation. Yeah, it's so true. I think the saving grace for me was growing up in a home where I could have things that were wrong with me. Right. And be able to tell my parents, right? And it was a place of strength. Yeah. So I remember my dad telling me, I want you to make all of your mistakes at home. Right. So you grow up in a home where it's like, man, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. Not only that, but if you say, hey, I'm struggling, you get help. You don't get made fun of. You're not looked down upon as not punished. As a man who's weak, not a leader. Yeah. And so many guys, the opposite message was sent, right? And so, so many guys, dad was just absent. Yeah. Or dad was like this tough guy who never shared his weakness, or you never questioned if your dad knew what to do, because he never showed any of that. Right. And so many guys are coming in battling that insecurity of, if I don't know it all, then I must not really be a strong man. I must not be a leader. And then on top of that, I think we as human beings,
that whole piece of, if I admit that something's wrong with me, I don't know how to fix it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when I hate working on stuff that I don't know how to fix.
I know.
Because you feel so powerless.
Yeah.
And we've had the luxury of I spent the last 20 years of my life helping people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm connected to some of the greatest minds on the planet when it comes to, I need help. What's the right thing to do? Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't grow up like that. They don't grow up with access to a Danny Silk so you don't get that mindset, right? That says, hey, it's not a big deal. You find out that you've got a porn problem, take ownership of that, seek some help, and you're going to get better. You don't know how to parent kids. Great. Take ownership of that. Maybe get an e-course, get a whatever, find out who's trusted. And so there's been that. I had the luxury of growing up in a culture that said, hey, don't pretend like you know it all.
Right. Reach
out and get some help. And it's true. I think so many marriages suffer.
Yeah. I think, you did grow up with that as a luxury. And I mean, like you said, I think most people don't.
No.
Most people don't have that kind of support. And so I think probably the task at hand is to undo a lot of that mentality for gosh, if you're already married. I mean, I think that for the sake of your family and for your marriage, you have to work really hard at undoing the mentality that, the opposite environment created for you, and which is, dismantle the lie that because you didn't grow up knowing how to do these things, it's a hopeless case. You're never going to get good at it. Like, that's not true. Maybe the question is, what do guys do if they didn't grow up with a super healthy model for that, and they're stuck in a whole bunch of belief patterns that are telling them to have a need is weakness, to to admit a wrong is not strong for your family. And it's pretty damaging actually what that does to a family. So what does a guy do? It
really is. That's a lot of why we're doing this podcast, right?
Totally.
Is to give guys simple tools that help them to be stronger, to be a stronger man in real strength. So I always say that the day you find something in yourself that needs to change is a good day, because you can fix that. You have 100% control over that.
Yeah.
Almost.
If
almost.
It's your problem.
Yeah.
Great. You can fix it.
So there's lots of options. The easiest one is, if you have money, go to a counselor. Like, super simple. And if you don't have money, maybe save for a counselor. And I'm going to explain this more. Like, I'm going to unpack this. The reason why I say that is, if let's say that you've had an issue. Let's say that you grew up in a home where dad wasn't kind. And you have anger issues because you have all that pain inside, and you've just been this way forever. Well, if you could have fixed it, you probably would have fixed it
totally
on your own. So let's start there, baseline, with this admittance. I have lived like this for a long time.
I have a problem.
I got a problem.
Yeah.
If you go get a counselor and say, hey, I got a problem. My dad lived like this, grew up, this is how I grew up, got a bunch of pain inside. I don't know how to deal with my pain. I was never given a 5-step process for dealing with pain or how to explain my needs. Or great, you go to a counselor, and that's a 2-month journey. That's a 2.5, 3 month journey of unpacking. And it could be longer. I know people that have been, it just depends on how deep and how bad, but it's not a lifetime journey. In a short amount of time, you could get somebody's insight, input, wisdom, that this is what they're an expert in. For instance, it's like if a guy has a blown head gasket in his car, and he's relying upon that car. Well, you could learn how to fix that on your own. You could get the manual, you can get on YouTube and you could watch that. And listen, if you don't have any money, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
You get on YouTube and you watch, and it's hours, right?
Yeah.
Or you can take it to a mechanic, and you could pay for someone who's an expert in doing that. And the cost is there. The other thing is get with guys who are healed. Mm-hmm. So I think that that's a mistake that a lot of us make as men. Again, we don't want to feel weak. So sometimes we get around men who have the same issue as us.
Yeah.
And my dad always says misery loves company. Mm-hmm. And so it's really easy to feel normal, to feel healthy when you're in a group of men who never ask the questions and are in the pit as well.
Yeah.
But getting around a group of guys who are strong. I mean, we have a online community of men. There's 500 guys online that meet weekly. It's our 12-month discipleship course that opens up periodically through the year. Mm-hmm. And I've watched these men. They do once a week. They watch a 40-minute video on whatever the topic is, how to process pain, forgiveness, and they meet with a small group once a week. Just from meeting with those small group guys and having a place where they could be open and say, I'm really struggling.
Yeah.
I'm struggling whatever with my wife, or I'm struggling with myself, or masturbation, or porn. I've watched those guys go to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
Because there's something that happens when you're with a group of people and in the atmosphere creates real authenticity, mm-hmm. real vulnerability, real connection. Is that thing that, let's say that you don't have an expert counselor to get in there and help you. Just in feeling real accepted, mm-hmm. really accepted, just in being able to process, mm-hmm. just in somebody genuinely asking you questions, somebody being there for you, mm-hmm. heals a lot of the stuff.
Yeah.
That took so long to get there.
Totally.
And so I would say, get in a community of men.
Yeah.
Get a counselor if you need to.
Mm-hmm.
Read books. That's another way.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's so much information today that I even think my dad never had access to.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
On YouTube, you can figure out, like on YouTube alone, you could almost all the content that I would give away or that I would sell, mm-hmm. you could find on YouTube.
Yeah.
If you spent enough time looking at it, researching it.
Totally.
And so, but the main thing is to take ownership, right?
Yeah.
And from there to go, I don't want to live like this forever.
Yeah.
I need to get involved with guys mm-hmm. who are running in this direction.
Yeah.
And so men, like sometimes you've got to ditch your bad friends. Mm-hmm. Like sometimes you have to not go to the guys' night where they're whatever, getting drunk and smoking pot. And I don't know.
Yeah.
Like you sometimes have to change your entire life and decide like, I'm going to get around a group of guys that kick butt, mm-hmm. that are fun, that are real men, mm-hmm. but are honest.
Yeah.
And gonna keep me accountable to my highest calling, not to my sin.
Right.
For what I can do.
Yeah. I remember when we were dating, one of the things that made me feel super safe moving forward with you into marriage was that you had other men in your life that you were talking to about everything, and that there wasn't anything that somebody didn't know about you. And I do think that, as a woman, I think women do carry obviously men carry an incredible amount of pressure to lead your families, and women carry pressures for different things. And I think there is a pressure that women carry generally to create a space that feels safe and that feels like a soft landing place for her family. So for the kids and for her spouse. But it's an incredible amount of pressure on a woman if I'm the only person that knows your issues. Yeah. Like if we're married and as your wife, I'm the only person on the planet that knows what you're dealing with.
It's too much.
It's an incredible amount of pressure because I am calculating that into everything I'm doing to create this space for us and for our family. And I need you to change. I want you to change so that we can feel the wholeness and we feel like this place of safety. I know that you coming into the family and bringing your full self depends on you getting free in these different areas.
Yeah.
But I can't force you to change. I'm the only person that knows the issue. I feel the brunt of the issue all day, every day, but I can't actually force you to change. Like, man, as a woman, that's too much. But I think as a woman who's married to a man who has other men in your life that you are talking to, whether it's your dad, people that you work for or with, friends, other leaders in the environment, like I don't ever have to worry whether you are, I'm never the only person that knows your issue, which is an incredibly freeing thing. And I don't know that people know what that does to a marriage all the time. You know, you're not supposed to be each other's husband or wife and counselor.
No,
that doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
No.
And it's so hard. It's so much pressure. Again, it's like, that's why guys are saying, well, she feels like my mom.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, yeah, she's the only one that knows you. And she's the only one that is dealing with your stuff day after day. And she gets tired of it.
Yeah.
And she's pissed off.
Yeah.
No, I grew up, again, like, I mean, these guys have all heard my story. So I've grew up with struggling with pornography, masturbation, all that stuff. And at some point in my life, I realized like I don't want to be walking around with secrets.
Yeah.
If you're hiding, here's the problem with hiding stuff is what you hide defines you. It becomes your identity, right? So these things, these sins, even if it's not a sin, these secrets that we hide becomes these definers. You are that bad thing. You are your worst day is what happens. And I just realized like, man, when you get that stuff out, it's like, the weight lifts off you so quick. It takes way less time to fix than what you thought it was going to. You love yourself so much more. And you get to hold your head up high. So I've just lived with this standard of like, man, I don't ever want to feel like I felt when I was 16 and did these, whatever things were. And so I've just fought for that. And guys have to do that. You know, that's another like first step is if nobody knows you, or if only your wife knows you, or if she doesn't know everything, like you got to get clean. There's a price that you pay for a clean heart.
Yeah.
And that price is heavy and painful often, but it leads to so much freedom. It's the only way to freedom.
Yeah.
Is by being able to really share what's going on inside of you.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I had one other thought about just ownership. I'm just thinking about marriage dynamics, and I have a friend who...
Oh, I was going to say something.
Oh, go ahead.
Before. Because I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh.
I think it's helpful to explain that the man's the catalyst in a relationship. And this is not just me being like old school. If you look at statistics, I won't get it perfect, but I'll get close. If a child gets saved in a home and the rest of the home isn't saved, there's like a 5% chance that the rest of the home will get saved. If a wife gets saved in a home and the rest of the family isn't, there's like a 12 to 15, something like that. It's small. If a husband gets saved and the rest of the family isn't, it's like 85 to 90%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you guys can go look up that statistic. I didn't get it perfect, but the man is such a catalyst for the direction of the home in the same way that the man's a catalyst for the direction and the speed of the relationship when we're dating. And the reason why is, one, it's God's design, but a man is supposed to bring peace to chaos. He's supposed to bring strength into the family. And he's supposed to be the one that's going like, together we're going to create a safe, healthy space. So I'm going to go first. Like I'm going to be the first one through the door. Yep. This is safe. Yep. This is healthy. Yep. This is, and then you come in and we partner together. It's not a pecking order in the sense of more valuable but it's just naturally how God made us. And so here's the thing is in counseling a lot, I hear there's a lot of times when one person will come in and the other person doesn't want to go.
Yeah.
You know, wives saying, what do I do? My husband and I are arguing. And my recommendation is always, well, why don't you come in? But if a guy, like if there's a man listening to this and he's like, man, my marriage is tough. My wife feels distant from me. Our marriage isn't working out. Mm-hmm. If you will be a catalyst and you will take ownership for your stuff and work on your stuff, almost every time I see that family turn around.
Yeah.
Because most of her fear, most of her reservation, or most of the agitation that you feel is her protecting herself from what feels dangerous.
Totally.
And when a man turns that around and gives her something to latch onto in a healthy sense, connect to, it's a complete game changer.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good.
Yeah.
I think that's true.
So the getting out your lies, the getting some accountability in a helpful way, becoming a part of a group of men, picking a healthy direction for your life, pursuing that, even just healthy routines in the morning.
Yeah.
Get up, make your bed, run, read the Bible, eat healthy. Those, just doing that alone, even if you don't know how to fix the inside stuff, it's a great place to start.
Totally. A little bit of something will get, it's crazy how small things help you gain so much momentum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You were going to say something else.
Well, it's funny because it's a little bit like the antithesis of what you were just saying.
No, that's okay.
So it's kind of the other side of the coin.
That's all right.
Like I have a friend who, I think struggles with fears, like we all have different fears, whatever. She's got fears in different areas, and a common thread in their dynamic is, I'm just waiting for him to figure it out, like take ownership. Like I'm not gonna toe that line. I'm not gonna. Yeah. But it's laced with this like I'm actually afraid to do it myself, and so I'm gonna blame him for not figuring this out for us. And I just think that gets dangerous because, the guy was designed to be the catalyst. Yes, actually, the family functions really well if the father is the father. Yep. There's actually a male figure who should be the father of a family. And when that structure is intact, things go better. Things go better than, in the alternative scenario. But at the same time, I just think, I'm thinking about marriages that might be struggling or people that might be listening. And I'm thinking, gosh, one person's fear should never be, don't use your own fear or insecurity to pit yourself against your spouse and blame them for, whatever reality you have going on in your marriage that you don't like. Yeah. And I think for a woman to know that she's powerful to address whatever's going on inside of her and actually vocalizing the needs that she has or the desires that she has. And it just only works well when both people are willing to take ownership is what I'm saying. Yeah, it's true. And we can't just rely on the stereotypical gender roles to say like, well, if this doesn't fall in my category, then I don't know. We're just good luck. I'm out, or he's going to have to figure it out. I'm not going to do that for him. It's like, well, that isn't really how marriage works. That's what the real
awesome. Like when I hear you explain that, it reminds me of John Gottman, who wrote the book, The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work. They have an incredible institute where they do like live studies on couples. And they have what's called the 4 horsemen for marriage. And basically marriages, they can predict with like 92% accuracy if a marriage is going to succeed or fail in the first like 10 minutes of watching a couple argue. Wow. Yeah. And there's 4, like they have 4 horsemen that they're looking for inside of a relationship. Okay. And if all 4 of them are present, like it's alarming. Yeah. So one of the horsemen is resentment. And when you were talking about that, like your friend who's like, that's my husband's job. He's supposed to be doing that. I'm not going to do that. Yeah. The real challenge is when people get into that mode where they're resentful, they become enemies. And it's worse than it's so much worse than going, I have needs and these needs aren't being fulfilled. Yeah. So I'm in pain. And I'm praying for him. I'm reading some boundary books. I'm learning some boundaries. I'm not going to take all this on, but at the same time, like I'm not going to make him my enemy.
Yeah.
Because when you start to make your partner your enemy, it's the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
In a relationship, it's unforgiveness would be another one, right? So resentment, unforgiveness. When you get into that mode in a marriage where you're keeping score and keeping track,
yeah,
like it's so incredibly painful. And now you're not just dealing with the original issue.
Right.
Like he needs to take ownership.
Yeah.
And that's a journey for him. And he's on that journey. Maybe she or he, you'll make your marriage so much worse if you become resentful, if you become, if you harbor unforgiveness to the point where you can't almost get out of it.
Yeah.
And so my suggestion is, listen, there's places where you're pulling weight for me, where you pulled weight for a long time in areas that I needed to grow stronger at.
Yeah.
And there's places where I pull weight for you that are kind of annoying sometimes. And we send that message back and forth like, I love you, but I need a plan for this. Or I love you, but man,
this is hard for me.
This is really hard. And I think we've learned over time that we're both on this journey. And it's my responsibility to manage my end of our connection, taking ownership of that. It's my responsibility to keep our main goal intact, which is connection, right?
Yeah.
So my goal with Lauren isn't to have a peaceful marriage. My goal with her is to have a connected marriage. Sometimes it's what makes me have that conflict with her.
Yeah.
Is I'm unwilling to live this way. And you're doing that vice versa.
Yeah.
And so I think that really remembering, really having that in mind with everything that we do, like at the end of the day, real connection, living in a connected marriage is the goal.
Yeah.
That is both of our goal.
Yeah.
In order to do that, we're going to have to take responsibility.
Yeah.
And we are on this learning curve to get there. And so hopefully this was helpful.
Yeah.
To some folks out there. We're going to do some more of this in the future, but I just think, we did a couple of dating podcasts and giving some married couples kind of a place to aim at and some guys a place to look at. Like, am I really taking ownership of my life? Am I living with some secrets inside that I need to get out? Am I being too stubborn and not seeking help?
Yeah.
And could my life be so much easier if I would take responsibility and ownership and go, okay, this is me. It's on me.
That's good.
Yeah. Any last thoughts?
No.
All right. Well, guys, thanks so much for tuning in, listening to the BraveCo podcast this week. Stay brave out there, gentlemen. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening to the BraveCo podcast. If you like this podcast, would you please rate it, review it, leave us a great comment. And if you like this episode in particular, share it with your friends and family. That helps us to spread the word. Guys, stay brave. We'll see you next week.